Good morning, YouTube. I'm OGF. This is a KTM RC125 and we're on our way to Igatpuri. Welcome to the channel. Now, I've also been riding this baby for a few days in the city on my way to work and back, and I was really impressed by it. I'll share my thoughts in a bit. And when the guys planned their ride, Sahil, who just got back from Australia after his studies, unfortunately doesn't have a motorcycle yet. So, considering KTM offered me the 125 for a few days, I figured why not give Sahil a taste of Indian roads again with Rage. And yeah, I'm testing this motorcycle out now on the highway just to see how different it is in comparison to Rage. Obviously there's a major difference in power, but also to see how well it can keep up with Dylan's 200. And so far, I mean, we're not really pushing it, but we never really do. And I think for a group like ours, made up of sensible riders, 125 so far fits right in. But there's still a lot more of this journey to go. Now, considering I'm late to the party and most of the other auto journalists and influencers have already released their videos of the KTM RC125 launch, I figured I'd answer some of the questions which are still pending, and that's why I recently asked you guys to ask me questions on Instagram about what you wanted to know about the motorcycle, and later in this vlog I'll be answering those questions for you, so stick around. Where's Rahul? Oh, he's gone over. Yeah, so we ran into a bit of rain back there, and fortunately we were able to outrun the clouds. It is a lot more dry over here, though the sides of these roads might suggest otherwise. We are close to about 40 kilometers away from our destination, and so far the 125 has kept up with the 200 to some extent. Of course, if Dylan wanted to pull the throttle and move away from me, he could. So I know someone asked me a question about whether this motorcycle would be good for touring. And if you're fine doing speeds of around 80 or 90 kilometers an hour continuously, cruising at that speed, then I think this would be fine. And if your group, more importantly, rides at that speed, then you should fit right in. The one issue you could be facing though on the highway is when you go to overtake other vehicles. Unlike the surge of power that you get on the 390 and even the 200 to some extent, you don't feel that in the same way on the 125. And that's why you have to be a little more careful with when you overtake vehicles ahead of you, because you don't want to be struggling for that spot side by side with them. That could get nasty. Such contrasting weather here. We've got rain and then dry conditions, rain, again dry, rain, and now the sun is out in full swing. All part of the journey, I guess. Yeah, a lot of people talk about Lonavala being beautiful at this time of the year. You gotta check Igatpuri out, man. It's pretty darn good looking too. Now that's what I'm talking about. Have a look at this. This is Igatpuri for you. Wowzers. Oh, look at that over there. Bit of water trickling down all around here. I stopped and I was thinking about putting my jacket in, and I said no, f it, and I came through. But I almost had you, Sahil. Right, we just made a stop here at Kasara Ghat, well, at the start of Kasara Ghat, and we're now heading towards the Ghat section itself. The Vipassana center is just directly after this. There's a left we have to take somewhere, and it'll be just a few meters, not even kilometers ahead, after this Ghat section ends. Yeah, so remember how I spoke earlier about picking the right moment to overtake? At Kasara Ghat, you have to be that much more careful when you're picking your moment. Yeah, I love this section of the Ghat, where you get to see the trains pass by. Can't get too distracted though, there's gravel around here. This is the infamous Arid corner, where, for those of you who don't know who Arid is, well, he is a motovlogger. He's still with us, fortunately. But that's the corner where he went off. Fortunately, he hit the barricades and sat his ass down, but yeah, he's made that famous for reasons he would like to forget. Words to live by. The more you speed, the more you skid. Yes, Kasara, you've been beautiful. Heading back home now with the boys. Probably gonna make a stop at McDonald's and eat something, and then it's time to head back home and share my 2 cents around the questions you asked me. Stick around. Alright, welcome to the second part of this video, which is the indoor review of the RC125. Now, we just completed the ride from Igatpuri, and I had released a question on Instagram stories a few days ago asking you guys what you wanted to know about the motorcycle to help me build this review. What I'll be doing now in this part of the video is not only trying to not get distracted by Wayne, but also answering some of the questions you guys asked. So let's get into it right away. Okay, so the first question is from Toon Chasm, and he asks, is it worth the price considering the fact that one can buy a used RC390 for almost the same price? Now, this is a question quite a few of you had around the RC125, where you all were asking about whether it's worth buying the RC125 or a used RC390. And granted, you might get a used RC390 in a decent condition at that price, but here's why I don't think that's the best option or the most sensible thing to do. Firstly, if you're looking at a RC125, I'm guessing that that's going to be your first motorcycle or your first performance-oriented motorcycle. If you're looking at buying a second-hand RC390, my guess is that you would probably have already experienced a motorcycle, maybe a 150 or a 200cc motorcycle first, and then want to upgrade to a more powerful motorcycle later, and that's why the RC390 comes into the picture. The RC125, make no mistake about it, is your gateway into a more performance-oriented motorcycle. So it'll not scare the pants off you while riding it, but it'll give you an experience of how a bigger motorcycle would feel, and it would give you a basic understanding of how you should be riding a sports bike. The RC390 is by no means a good beginner's bike, especially in a country like India where we don't have the roads to hit the kind of speeds the RC390 is capable of. In a country like, say, the USA, where you have open roads and you have more freedom to explore the motorcycle gradually, I think that's a good place to learn with the RC390, especially with the amount of race tracks available abroad. But in India, with the kind of traffic we have and the kind of roads we have to ride on every day, I don't think the RC390 is a good beginner's motorcycle. The RC125, on the other hand, would help you gain the skills which you would need to then be able to manage an RC390 and then upgrade from there onwards. So I don't see the need to be comparing the 125 and the 390. If you're in the market for the 125, go for the 125. If you're in the market for the 390, go for the 390 or something with a similar power band. Okay, the next question is from Sheikh Minhaz, and he asked about the fuel range. Now, the tank on the RC125 is similar to the tank on the RC390, but the fuel economy on the RC125 is way better than the RC390. In my tests over the time I had the motorcycle with me, I think we got close to 36 to 40 kilometers per liter, and understand that this was over a period where I was riding the motorcycle in the city for my daily commute to work and back, and then riding it over the weekend as well with a couple of friends. Ajay Naikar asks, is that bike worth buying for 1,47,000?
And I think a few of you have asked, in addition to that, considering the R15 version 3 is priced slightly lower than the RC125, now does that RC125 make sense? And when we're talking about worth or value in this case, I think we really need to take a step back and understand what we consider as value. Some of us look at fuel economy as value, some of us look at performance as value, some of us look at low maintenance cost as value. And you need to decide what you consider as value firstly, probably list it down on a piece of paper, and then have a look at the motorcycles you're considering to buy and decide which one you want to take out of those. Also, before you make any decision in buying a motorcycle, I'd always recommend that you test ride the motorcycle first, or test ride all of the motorcycles you're considering first, and then see which one you're most happy with and the one which you can live with. Because I can share a lot of my opinions, auto journalists can share a lot of their opinions, friends, family, so on and so forth can share their opinions with you, but at the end of the day, the person who'll be riding that motorcycle day in and day out is you. And if you're not happy with the motorcycle, you're going to be really disappointed with the decision you've made. So for me, is the bike worth 1,47,000? I think of it in this way. The RC125 gives you the same hardware that the RC200 gives you, but just with a smaller engine. And considering you're getting that kind of performance in a motorcycle which is a 125cc motorcycle, I think if you look at the other 125cc bikes in India, I don't think they come close to the performance and the looks that the RC125 would get you for that price. If you're looking at the R15, again, that's a formidable motorcycle. I think it's proved itself over time. I had the chance to ride the R15 version 3 on the racetrack at Budh International Circuit recently, and I would say that that bike has improved considerably from the R15 version 2 that I owned previously. The one problem I had with the old R15 was the handlebars were too short, but I think they've kind of extended the handlebars a bit this time, so it gives you a little more leverage to counter-steer the motorcycle and dip it into a turn. The one problem I had with that bike though was the brakes, and they lacked feedback and bite, and I think that's something you could look at improving on that motorcycle, probably in the next version, in version 4. Sahil Matlani of Bewafa fame asks, how is it on long rides in terms of comfort, and what are the vibrations like? And I think quite a few people asked about the vibrations. One thing that you'll really be surprised if you've previously had a chance to ride a KTM motorcycle, at least the 200s and the 390s, is the fact that this lacks vibrations. And I'm not even kidding, I think until you actually redline the motorcycle is when you'll start to then feel some sort of vibrations through the foot pegs and the handlebars. But until then, you really wouldn't feel a lot of vibrations. It's very un-KTM-like for us to not have those kind of vibrations on a KTM RC or a Duke. And I had a chance to ride the Duke 125 on the Chakan racetrack, which is KTM's testing facility in Pune, and the vibrations on that were very minimal. The 125 RC also has a similar setup and really doesn't vibrate a lot. In terms of comfort though, comfort would be on par with the RC390, so if you've had a chance to ride the RC390, it's not the most comfortable motorcycle to take for a really long ride, but it will keep you entertained throughout. Again, if you haven't watched my video already on how to customize your motorcycle for you, do check it out. I'll put a link in the description and somewhere in the top over here for you to be able to check out. It'll help you make minor adjustments to your motorcycle, which will then make your ride a lot more comfortable. Okay, Eric Fonseca 007 asks, mileage, heating, and lastly engine performance. So I think I've spoken about the mileage already. Engine performance, I think I've given you all an understanding of how that is. Heating, I think this is one thing that really stood out for me. Never before on a KTM have I seen the radiator fan come on for about 30 seconds and then switch off immediately after. Maybe I've had bad luck with my RC390, but this was really shocking. And I understand that it's a smaller capacity engine, it won't heat up as much, but it was really pleasant to be able to ride the motorcycle even in bumper to bumper traffic and not have that radiator fan be on continuously. It's a pleasant feeling to be able to listen to other noises apart from that. But yeah, the heat was managed very well. Alankar Sharma asks, is it quick enough for a Chapri to do something stupid in? Well, Chapris have done stupid things at even 20 kilometers per hour. So if you're a Chapri, I think it's not the motorcycle, but it's the Chapri on the motorcycle that can do stupid things. So I don't think it should be a problem for Chapris to do stupid things on. It's RV543 asks, would it be capable of long rides like your RC390, or is it just a city bike? Now keep in mind that the RC series isn't the most comfortable of motorcycles to ride, and when you do get off the bike, eventually you will have parts of your body that are paining. It takes a while to get used to the motorcycle's riding position, so that isn't the best motorcycle to take touring right away. And in terms of the 125, the sweet spot, or the speed which you can constantly maintain, is somewhere between 80 to 90 kilometers per hour without you really stressing the engine out. So if you're okay doing those kind of speeds on your weekend rides or whenever you're going touring, then why not? The RC125 would be a perfect motorcycle. I've said it before as well on the RC390 and now with the RC125 as well. With the windscreen and the way the fairing's set up, it saves you from a lot of wind blast, and when you do eventually hit the twisties, the RC series of motorcycles can really keep you entertained. So if you're into that kind of riding and if you're fine doing those speeds while touring, then why not? The RC125 can be a good touring motorcycle too. Alright, and the final question which I usually end all of my reviews with is, who would I recommend this motorcycle to? If you're a college student and you're looking to have a motorcycle which not only is eye-catching but also performs well, the 125 is a perfect motorcycle, and whether it's the Duke or the RC, both of them would do you good. If you're a parent who's looking to buy a motorcycle, maybe the first motorcycle for your child, boy or girl, doesn't matter, the RC or the Duke 125 would be a good start. It would not only keep them happy in the looks department, but it will also make sure that your child learns to ride the motorcycle at a gradual pace. There's a lot of people who buy 600 and 1000cc motorcycles as their first motorcycle for their children. We all know how that ends up most of the time. The 125s are a great start, and then you can upgrade very gradually as your skills as a rider improves. Always remember that you should only be upgrading your motorcycle when your skills as a rider improve. If you've not really learned much on a smaller capacity motorcycle and you move on to a bigger bike, you're going to end up in trouble sooner or later. And finally, if you're someone who likes commuting and enjoying city traffic, I don't know who does that, but if you're someone who likes going to work and back on a motorcycle that will keep you happy, and on a motorcycle that can to some extent keep up with 200s and 300cc motorcycles over the weekend, the 125 is a great start to have. So it's a great entry level motorcycle. In fact, I wish it was an option I had way back when I started riding motorcycles, but it's a great start and a great entry pathway into performance motorcycles. Alright, that's pretty much all I had for today. Thank you again so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you did not, please share feedback in the comments. As always guys, at least wear your helmets while riding your motorcycles and ride safe. It's a freaking jungle out there. Goodbye.
Parcel the great bag, came up, you can't hate that. Self-made, you can't take that. Yeah, self-made, you can't make that. Some said I need a record deal, I need a co-sign, I need a Dre track. But all the time I had a mean flow, I had a cold grind, and that's a great match. Payback, codes and I make racks. In my pockets gon' stay fat, cause I murk beats and I slay.